wins. 40 cars coming to life.
Can you still take the field? Yep. Love it. Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W's, so gotta be around the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkered. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby! Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the best car here, bud. Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job. Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend. What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.
And welcome back to Racing in the Draft. My name is Mark. Welcome back to a Saturday night main event, where we head to New Hampshire, Loudon, the Magic Mile, whatever it's called, New Hampshire, for this race. Oh boy, we've got 7 weeks left. We are in the home stretch. We are into the round of 12 in the playoffs, and Bristol is now in the rearview mirror. What a race that ended up being. As much as I wanted it to be a tire wear race, I just honestly didn't think it was going to be, and it turned out to be a tire wear race, and I loved every minute of it. I did okay with Draftkings, but I definitely could have set my lineups completely different if I would have known that that was going to be the case. So, yeah, I don't think anybody really saw that coming. There was always the hope that it might, but after practice and they were able to run 60, 70 laps with no issues on the tires, hey, who knows? I mean, same thing happened today with practice. Not a whole lot of tire wear. I mean, there was a little bit of fall off, but I mean, they ran 35, 40 laps in practice, and tires seemed to be holding up perfectly fine, even though they're using the same softer compound that they used at Gateway and at Richmond and Martinsville and other places that it has actually performed pretty well. So maybe after 50, 60 laps, we'll start to see a little bit more tire wear, but who knows at this point? It's supposed to be 60 degrees, sunny, and an absolute Chamber of Commerce day up in Loudon, New Hampshire tomorrow. All right, let's get into last week's tire wear crazy race from Bristol, where Christopher Bell ended up taking home the win, making it 3 in a row for Joe Gibbs Racing. All 3 of their drivers in the playoffs, all won in the first round. Will that trend continue? I think Team Penske may have something to say about that this week, but we said the same thing about Gateway, that was going to be a Penske track, and Joe Gibbs ended up winning that one. But our optimal lineups from Bristol. Yeah, Ty Gibbs. That has definitely got to be Ty Gibbs' favorite racetrack at this point. He has performed well ever since joining the Cup Series at Bristol, and he showed no signs of slowing down, leading 201 laps and getting 101.2 points, but still not getting that elusive first victory for Ty Gibbs and that team. But Chase Briscoe, God, what another strong run. I think he has an average finish in the first round of the playoffs of like 5.6 or something crazy I saw. Either way, he got a 9th place finish. Brad Keselowski with a 2nd. Corey Heim. How about Corey Heim time coming in the 6th place. Zane Smith in 3rd. And Joey Logano, a track that he has not performed well in the next gen era, actually coming through with a 5th place finish and getting himself into the next round of the playoffs. I actually kind of thought Joey may go out in the first round, but now that we're into the second round, all bets are off. Joey may have something to say about it being an odd or even year, as they have said many times that he doesn't do as well in the odd years, just the even years. But either way, $2,900 left over from the optimal lineup. That's crazy for Bristol, where I think 3 out of the 4 races that in the past 4 years or 4 races at Bristol have been $0 left over. So yeah, all sorts of strange antics going on at Bristol last weekend. Either way, I enjoyed the race. I thought it was great. Hopefully you did too. Other drivers who did not quite make the optimal lineup, but still had really good finishing days. Christopher Bell, Carson Hocevar, Ryan Blaney, Alex Bowman, Bush, Haley, and Nemechek. Nemechek with another good solid run for Legacy Motorsports. They have really started to come on here in the late part of the season, so something to definitely keep an eye on. We'll see if that trend holds any weight going into New Hampshire. Their practice speeds were a little bit off, but actually everybody's speeds were a little bit off except for one driver, and we'll get to that one driver momentarily. Our optimal lineup challenge didn't change very much at the top. It just kind of got a little bit more crowded in the middle, but Chase Elliott still holding that top spot down with 10, and he's got a starting spot for tomorrow's race that may put him right back into being in that optimal lineup again. But we'll get to that momentarily. All right. Now that Bristol is out of the way, we head to the flat banks, long straightaways, super arcing corners of New Hampshire, the Magic Mile. You know what's interesting? I really don't know what's magic about it. I mean, maybe they have witchcraft or something. I mean, I guess Salem, New Hampshire is not that far away from there. Or Salem, Massachusetts isn't that far away. So I don't know. Maybe some witches possessed it. I don't know what makes it magic, but it's called the Magic Mile for a reason. I mean, it's beautiful up there this time of year, so maybe that's magical. I don't know. Either way, we are at New Hampshire, and Christopher Bell has been very, very dominant at this race, along with Joe Gibbs over the last few years. But once again, like I said earlier, I think Penske may have something to say about that this year. This is a short to intermediate style track. It is intermediate in length, but races like a short track. It's a lot like Gateway, to be perfectly honest. Turns 3 and 4 at Gateway are very, very similar to the turn 3 and 4 in 1 and 2 at New Hampshire. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 are almost identical. It looks a lot like a Martinsville on steroids. The banking is about the same, and it looks kind of the same from an overhead view, but it's twice the size. It's, if anything, I would call it, instead of the tricky triangle, I would call this the tricky oval. It is very deceiving. It's extremely hard to race. Heavy brakes, you downshift, all the things that go on in this race are brought into this race. It's unique. Maybe that's what's magical about it. I don't know. But either way, we are racing 301 laps because of the 1.058 miles. I think it has to do with the kilometers, and it's coming up with its laps. I can't remember exactly why it's a unique, an additional one lap. Maybe they're just trying to avoid the green-white checkers and just have a 1 at the end. I don't know. Either way, Dominator points will be somewhat of a factor. Really kind of honing in on what I would say kind of like 2 Dominators, or 2 guys that will race up front, stay up front, be up front all day. And we've got a couple of pretty good leads on who those drivers potentially could be. But we'll kind of break that down here in just a second. But there's 210.7 Dominator points available for this race, 75.25 coming from laps led, 135.45 coming from fast laps. Other tracks to compare to, even though this doesn't really compare to anything, it's got similarities to Richmond, Gateway, Phoenix, Nashville, Martinsville. I mean, you can almost kind of throw some Pocono aspects into this, and the flatness of an Indy to it. Just, I mean, there's lots of tracks that you can kind of compare to New Hampshire, but none are quite the same as New Hampshire. Either way, the optimal lineups from the previous 4 races at Loudon, New Hampshire. Last year, we saw 1 Dominator, and Christopher Bell leading almost half of the laps, 149, having 43 fast laps, and total points of 104.6. As always, kind of keep in mind where the point values are. So when we go to start building lineups, we have a general idea of the point totals that we need to get. And I did not fix that on this chart today. I was actually sitting around for a few minutes beforehand and was like, I think I'm missing something. I just remembered what I missed. Oh well. Either way, then the 2023 Cup race, Martin Truex Jr., another Joe Gibbs car, absolutely dominating the field with 254 of the 301 laps led. Martin Truex Jr. coming home with the win and the huge points total of 149 points. And the point total that we kind of are looking at for the high-end drivers of 46 and 55. So kind of keep that in mind. But one dominator, 2 place differentials, 3 values, 3 guys finishing in the top 5, $300 left over. In 2022, the first year of the next-gen car here, once again, we saw Martin Truex Jr. dominating the field, leading 172 laps with a 101 point total. Hey, Pope, what's up, buddy? We putting the kiddo down tonight again? Am I putting her to sleep with my nice soothing voice? I'm kidding. But 59.3 point total here. And then we have the New Hampshire 2021 race, which was the last year of the last generation car. Some similarities. The point totals really don't change a whole lot because they raced 293 laps. It got shortened because of darkness. New Hampshire does not have lights. So no issues tomorrow for weather, but absolutely something that you can kind of keep an eye on is, the sun's going to set by about 7:20, 7:25 up in New Hampshire. The race starts at 2. It's 5 hours. So if they don't have weather, we should get this whole race in without any lighting issues. She's down currently. Hopefully it will remain that way. Well, I will continue to talk for the next 2 hours to keep her soothed and asleep. But glad you were able to get her down. Way to be a good dad. All right. Let's look at where the points come from when it consists of the top 15 points. So on the high end, for the high-end drivers, we're looking at somewhere at about 55 points is kind of where the more expensive drivers are going to need to get their points total to. And on the low end, for the top 15 point getters and with their starting spots, about 5 of them come from the top 10, another 5 come from 11 through 20, and then we get to 21 through 30, and it's only 3 and 31st or worse. So back to the pack is not something you have to be overly concerned with. We only have 1 on average. Some races they're more, some races they're none. But either way, it is much more of a place, not a place differential. It is a get every position you can when you can get it, because it's very difficult to pass here. It takes a lot of laps to set up a pass and make the pass happen. And with the aero blocking that is going on with this car, it definitely will be an issue. So hopefully the tire wear will come into play at some point and we can get some differentials and we can get some guys on off strategies that will hopefully kind of mix it up a little bit. Pope says, I feel close week to week, but I bet if I did more of the contest you suggest, I'd be, I'm close every week. I was close today for the truck race, and just there towards the end, it kind of fell off just slightly. I still did okay. I got over half of my money back, but I still lost a little bit. But DFS, NASCAR, if you can get about half of your money back, typically it's not that bad of a day. I know that's kind of tough to say, but realistically, you're playing the long game with NASCAR and DFS. Is just keep your head above water long enough to get 1 or 2 lineups that end up popping, and then that'll carry you for another, 8, 10, 12 weeks, depending on how much you're betting. But yeah, it is so close and so hard. Like literally, the last 2 weeks of NFL football, I had some free entries just from stuff that I'd played in the past that allowed me to have some free entries. And I played, a lineup or two in the NFLs, and I've made money in both of those. And I like watching football. I like the NFL, but I literally will listen to a couple YouTube channels and be like, okay, I could see the sense there. I could see that. All right, I'll put all these guys in a lineup, and I end up doing decent. Especially for a free entry. So, because if anytime you can win a little bit of money, it's always a positive. But either way, 33 points is kind of the low end on the 15-point total. So anybody getting over 33, we'll just call it 35 points. So between 35 and 55 is kind of going to be the range that we're looking for. And the place differential, a lot of times, a lot of these races, this place differential average, which means the average amount of drivers that move 10 spots or more, this number here is typically closer to 7 or 8 or even 10. We're at half. This is not a place differential style race. Yes, we will have a couple of drivers that we will target for place differential, but we're really looking for start up front, stay up front, get a decent finish. Because if you go back here and look at these finishing positions, it's, they're all decent finishing positions. Austin Dillon start finishing 23rd, but only one driver starting outside the top 20. Then if we look at 2021, it's pretty much 22nd is the highest starting spot. Then in 2024, we had Ryan Preece starting in 31st. But other than that, everybody's in the teens or 20s. And then the same thing for the 2023 race. One driver starting 30th, and that was the worst starting spot of everybody that made the optimal lineup. So this is not, you don't necessarily need to dig all the way down and find I can't remember who's starting 34th or 33rd. There are a couple of drivers in the 30s that we can definitely target, but this is not a race where we need to dig for a ton of place differential. All right, let's get to our driver breakdown, starting with the most expensive driver. Pope says, would you oppose a rule to max one starting 31st or worse? Yeah, I will definitely target a couple of the guys that are starting in the 30s, but and honestly, because qualifying and practice were on a little bit late today, I was a little bit crunched for time, so I can't fully remember the starting lineup. Let's see. Starting 30, let's see. We've got Custer, Ware, Gregson, Suarez, Gillen, Stenhouse. I could see maybe targeting Gregson or Stenhouse. Todd Gillen, I don't know if something was broken in his car or not, but he was awful in practice. He was awful in qualifying. He qualified worse than Cody Ware. There's something definitely going on with the Todd Gillen car this week. So honestly, I don't know of really anybody in this whole group in the 30s that I would even come close to targeting. Cole Custer got his first truck win at New Hampshire, but that was many years ago. Stenhouse Jr. had a good practice. Todd Gillen stunk. Daniel Suarez that hasn't shown up for weeks at this point. Cody Ware is just not good right now. He's getting better. I'm not trying to throw shade on him, but he is getting better. But yeah, honestly, looking at the guys that are starting in the 30s, there's nobody in here that I go, oh, yeah, that's a good pick. Like I said, maybe Noah ends up having a decent race, or Ricky Stenhouse Jr. actually has the speed that he had in practice. But I don't love anybody starting in the 30s at this point. So we'll break everybody down. All right, if you are new to the channel, and the channel is starting to grow a little bit more, I appreciate everybody hitting that like and subscribe button. and kind of digging into this, especially during football season. It's a little tough to get huge viewership for racing, but we've had a couple good weeks here, so I appreciate everyone tuning in. But Christopher Bell, 11,200 in DraftKings. The 5 races that we're comparing to is, that's not correct, is the last 3 Loudon races in the Next Gen era and the 2 Gateway races, one from a couple weeks ago and the one from last year. Continental, Stenhouse may be looking for Bubba. Maybe. I mean, there's definitely no love lost between the two of them. I mean, there's not really a whole lot of love lost between Stenhouse and most of the field at this point, to be perfectly honest. But, I mean, Stenhouse is also going to have to catch Bubba or go a lap down trying to get to him. And honestly, I'm not sure that happens either way. So, I mean, yeah, maybe, but you got to find him first, and you got to be faster than him. And I don't think right now Stenhouse is faster than Bubba. So, but yeah, there's always possibilities for payback. I mean, coming out of a short track Saturday night race with huge amounts of tire wear, there were lots of people who were a little bit jaded from last week. We might see paybacks, we might not. Or are you talking about from last year? Did Stenhouse and Bubba have an issue at New Hampshire last year? I can't remember. Like I said, Stenhouse has an issue with everybody. There's Kyle Busch, there's Hocevar, there's Bubba, I mean, the list is long in the payback department for Stenhouse at this point. But Christopher Bell is starting in the 19th position, so potentially good place differential here with Christopher Bell, since he does have 2 wins in the last 5 races that we're comparing to. 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 4 top 20s, a 64.9 DraftKings average, which definitely puts it above that 55 limit that we're definitely looking for, and that's just his average. He has a 9th place average finish with a 6.2 average running position. Like I said, he won this race last year. 5 total starts here in New Hampshire, 2 wins, 3 top 5s. The rest of them are outside the top 20, but an 8th place average finish. I mean, Christopher Bell's got extremely, extremely good stats here. Practice speeds were a little off. But practice speeds were off for a lot of people that I would have thought would have practiced better. Christopher Bell being one of them. Briscoe being the other one. So practice was a little bit wonky. I don't know if they were trying to set their cars up more for race conditions or if they kind of got a little caught off guard with the weather. I mean, even Joe Logano, who did the tire test here and went out and had a blistering qualifying lap, his practice speeds were slightly off. But then his teammate Ryan Blaney just lit practice on fire. Practice was unique today. A little head scratching, to actually be honest. And we'll get to the practice speed. So actually, Christopher Bell's practice, he was 21st in single lap, 32 laps of practice, and he was 28th in a 10-lap consecutive run. So the 10-lap consecutive run is they run 10 consecutive laps without making a pit stop to make adjustments. They only get 1 set of tires, so typically it's your first 10 laps, but that wasn't even the case. I think like Ryan Blaney had his fastest 10 laps between lap 5 and 16. So, yeah, like I said, practice was a little head-scratching, to be perfectly honest. 4 wins on the season, and he is plus 20 to the cut line at the start of round 2. So Christopher Bell starting this round in a pretty good spot at a track that he is typically very, very good at. He's also really good at Gateway too. So our practice speeds. The control car, control driver, whichever you want to call it, is Ryan Blaney, who just kind of started off a little bit on the slow side, but once he kind of got into his groove, he was running very, very consistent laps. And as you can see, the white line is the average line. That's all the drivers and their times. averaged out. The yellow is Christopher Bell's times, and the black lines are Ryan Blaney's times. So as you can see, in each one of these lines, if you can actually see these lines, is 0.2 of a second. So he was almost 0.4 of a second. Ryan Blaney was almost 0.4 of a second faster than the average lap time. And he was about 0.2 faster than Christopher Bell for a good 10 to 15 laps in practice with comparing speeds. That's not side by side. That's, it's just lap times. But either way, Ryan Blaney was significantly faster than the entire rest of the field on a long run. So it'll be interesting to kind of take a stab at. Like I said, Christopher Bell's got plenty of room to run here. He's starting in 19th. He's got a really good average finish. Putting it somewhere in the 13th is an average, so he could easily win. There's no doubt. He won here last year. He's always run well here. Gibbs has always run well here. I expect them to probably be around towards the end. So starting in 19th, let's kind of put it on the calculator and see what that potentially looks at. With him starting in 19th, not having the best pit spot or pit stall selection will kind of hinder him slightly. So, if anything, we'll give him 15 laps led. So I'm not expecting Christopher Bell to go out and dominate. And looking back, I actually wrote this down this time. Stages. The first stage is 70 laps. The second stage is 115 laps. And the final stage is 116 laps. So 70 is kind of the one that we kind of need to key in on, because that probably will be done by one or two drivers, the ones starting on the front row. Typically. But we'll just kind of keep that in mind. Let's go back to Christopher Bell's stat sheet here. All right, so if we think he might lead, let's just give him 15 laps. And let's say he's got 7 fast laps. And the optimal, like I said, was 55 for the expensive drivers. And to be in the top 15 is 35 points. Well, Christopher Bell, starting in 19th, if he just goes and finishes 6th and does these other two things, that gives him 57.9. How far back can he slide? 10th? Nope, too far. 8th. 8th almost cuts it. So an 8th place finish or better with a couple of laps led and a couple fast laps for Christopher Bell would put him there. Let's say he doesn't lead any laps. What is he going to need to get to make it up there? 6th? Puts it close. So a top 5 for Christopher Bell, who has got the win here last year. Joe Gibbs Racing, who does well here. I think it's very easily doable. So Christopher Bell is still absolutely in play in my book, even though he's 11,200. Setting lineups should not be all that difficult with pricing. You're going to have to have a good mix, but we don't have, like we had in the Truck Series, where you had Corey Hyman 13,500 and Riggs at 12,500. We had some really expensive drivers in the truck race, which made it a little bit tricky to set those lineups. So Christopher Bell, absolutely. So what I always do is I always try to narrow down to my core 15. So that's the core 15 drivers that I will use in building my lineups. And kind of within that core, I have the start up front, stay up front, be there at the end, maybe lead laps, maybe be a dominator, but really going to have just a solid finish and a solid day all day. And that typically consists of about 5 drivers. Then there's the next set of 5 drivers that may not lead a lot of laps. They're starting kind of in and around that 10th place spot. So they might start 8th, they might start 15th. Not a huge place differential, but they're going to make sure that they take care of their equipment. They'll be there at the end. That's kind of the next 5 that I look at. And then I'm looking at 5 drivers that I think have the best opportunity for place differential and are on the less expensive side to help me build in those more expensive drivers. So that would be my core 15 drivers. And then After that, I kind of have a sub core of about 7 drivers that I'll use to kind of mix and match. And some of those will be the very, very cheap drivers, so I can potentially afford to have maybe a Christopher Bell and a Denny Hamlin, or a Christopher Bell and a Ryan Blaney, or a combination of those guys starting up front, but still have some guys that will potentially fill out the rest of my lineup. All right, so Christopher Bell absolutely still is in that lineup, and I would put him in that B tier of the lineups that I'm building. Denny Hamlin, $11,000, starting in 9th. Once again, practice speeds for the Joe Gibbs cars were not great, and Denny has always said, I don't go for fast laps in practice. I go to see what my car is going to do, what the tires are going to do, make sure I've got a good, solid car that's set up to run the race, not just for qualifying. And he qualified fairly well for Denny Hamlin standards. He's qualified in 9th. So not a bad starting spot for Denny Hamlin. This would absolutely be a driver that I would potentially look at as starting in the top 10. I expect to be around the top 10. Might lead a few laps here and there. I'm not sure I expect Denny Hamlin to go out and dominate. Yeah, I mean, I think the Denny Hamlin starting in 9th is a good starting spot for him. Like I said, it gives a little bit of, a couple points of place differential, but it's not somebody I'm keying in on for place differential, and it's not somebody I'm really keying in on to go and be a dominator in this race. He would probably be a lot like Christopher Bell. He's going to be in that kind of that B section of my core drivers. And it's going to be a little difficult to get to that 55 point range for Denny Hamlin when we put him on the scale, because there's not a whole lot of place differential, and I'm also not targeting him to be a dominator of sorts. So do I think Denny can get out there and lead some laps? Absolutely. But it's not something I'm kind of betting the farm on. I don't bet the farm anyways. I guess I have to own a farm first, but I'm not betting the house on it. So yeah, Denny Hamlin, $11,000 starting in 9th. Practice speeds were, they're fine. 23rd in single lap, 9th and 10 lap, a decent long run speed. Nothing like Brian Blaney. He does have one win in the 5 races we're comparing to. He did win Gateway a couple weeks ago, similar style track. But he was not dominant there by any means. So just got to keep that in mind. He has an 8th place average finish for the 5 races we're comparing to. 8.6 average running position, starting in 9th. This is a classic start in the top 10, stay in the top 10, keep yourself out of trouble, build on this 26 point lead that you've got. He is the highest point getter so far for the start of round 2 of the playoffs. 5 total wins on the season. He's going after that elusive 60th win to tie Kevin Harvick. So that is definitely something he has said he wants to do as much as winning the championship. So keep that in mind. 30 total starts, 3 wins, 10 top 5s, 18 10 top 5s here at Loudon out of 30 starts. So a third of the time he's finishing in the top 5. Almost 2/3 of the time he's finishing in the top 10. And 26 out of 30 he's finishing in the top 20. Just super solid here at New Hampshire. Look at his practice speeds. It's not pretty, but it kind of just runs right along that average line, but nowhere close to the speeds that Ryan Blaney was running. But this is not bad. I mean, he had a couple laps that were a little out of shape, but for the most part, if we kind of just average it, it kind of just follows the average. So with it being difficult to pass here, I think Denny Hamlin can, as long as they don't screw something up on pit road, I think he's definitely eligible to kind of stay in the top 10 most of the day. So let's kind of put him on the chart here, starting in 9th, and if we don't think he's going to lead a lot of laps, we'll just put 0 out there to start, and we'll give him, 5 fast laps. That may or may not happen, but we'll give him 5. Like I said, if he finishes in 2nd, it's only 51 points. And if we've got to get to this 55 point total, that's tough. he's going to need to win the race to get to that 55 total, or lead some laps and have some fast laps. So that's why I would put him kind of towards the bottom of my core B team. It just makes it really hard for him to get to that 55 point total. If he finishes in first, he's there, but only because he's got 5 fast laps. Now, if he wins the race, he's going to lead probably at least 10 laps. So that definitely puts him there. But you're asking for a Denny Hamlin to win, starting in 9th when, his practice speeds were okay. So he's going to have a little bit of help to get up there and lead some laps. So at least to get past Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney was lights out at practice. There's nobody on the track that was even close to Ryan Blaney. And William Byron on 1 lap speed, but then after that it wasn't even close. Pope says, can you quickly touch on core and what exposure does that mean? Is the term core carried out? No. Not, at least not in my head. Like I said, I don't play a ton of NFL DFS. So the core that I'm looking at is kind of what I'm talking about. It says 15 drivers that I think are going to score in that group. And it's that 35 point total and above. And then there's the sub core, which I said is like 7 or 8 drivers. But inside that core, I'm kind of targeting roughly 5 drivers that could dominate, start up front, stay up front, and be around all day long. That would be a Ryan Blaney who is starting in 2nd. That potentially is a Joey Logano starting in 1st. That would be kind of the A set of drivers. The B set of drivers, like Christopher Bell, is an absolute, in my opinion, the top currently of the B drivers that I'm looking at. A little bit of place differential, could still easily win the race, could potentially even dominate at some point during the race. That's kind of my B tier because they're expensive. Kind of puts that in the top of the tier of the B range. The C range would be potentially that Noah Gragson, the Zane Smith, the maybe Ricky Stenhouse, even though I don't like that call really a whole lot, but the Ricky Stenhouses. Those are my C drivers, and it's more not because they're a C driver, they're the cheaper option. Now, even though Christopher Bell is the most expensive driver out there, and he's in my B set, the B set is much more guys that I think can make it into the top 10 that maybe not dominant. My A drivers are the guys that I'm targeting to potentially dominate. Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano are the 2 right now that, just off my head, watching practice and qualifying, that I go, more than likely they stand the best shot of dominating this race. So hopefully that makes sense. It makes sense in my head. Sometimes trying to explain it is a little bit tough. What's your cap of exposure for the drivers? I'm probably not going to be much more because we don't have a true must-have this race. Probably the closest thing to a must-have this race would be a Ryan Blaney, to be perfectly honest. It's not like we have a Chase Briscoe from last week starting in 31st, who was very good in practice, typically pretty good at this race. Practice speeds were top 10, and he just missed in qualifying. It was pretty much just a shoe-in to, as long as he finished the race, he was probably going to end up in the optimal because of his place differential. So that would end up being in the A group of drivers. Number 1 is expensive. Number 2 is place differential is high. So the A set of drivers is not always a complete dominator. Or you could potentially even have put Chase Briscoe in the top tier of the B section of drivers. So it all depends on how you want to draw this up and figure it out. But typically, my A drivers, I'm probably targeting somewhere between 25 to 50% ownership. Just depending on who they kind of get paired with when I start to do the builds. The B drivers typically probably aren't going to be much more than 30% owned, but could fall down to 20% owned. So in that 20 to 30, maybe 35% owned. The C drivers really kind of fall in that 15 to 25%, more probably closer to 10 to 20% ownership. And then your subcore, which I guess would be the D set of drivers, are much more the 10% ownership range. And then sometimes you just have to to get the 5 drivers that you like the best, sometimes you just have to put and hope that a Cody Ware ends up with a decent day. And it's $4,500, and you're like, well, if these other drivers do that and Cody Ware can get a 28th place finish and things just fall just right, it'll happen. I don't do a whole lot of that because it's so rare for a Cody Ware, a Riley Herbst, that group, Ty Dillon, to actually make an optimal lineup. It happens. BJ McLeod would make optimal lineups, typically with super speedways, but occasionally it does happen. JJ Yaley, I've seen non-super speedways. I've seen JJ Yaley make optimal lineups because it's just how it fit. And it's super rare, but it happens. I don't love doing it. I don't bet on it. It's not like, ooh, I'm going to put JJ Yaley in these lineups because I think it's going to be something that happens. It's more of a, God, I really want to run these 5 drivers, but the only other person I could put in here is JJ. I'll put JJ in and just kind of hope. And I'm probably not going to run that in one of the more expensive tournaments. It's going to be in one of the it's going to be in one of the large field tournaments. The ones 10,000 entries, and it's just a fluke if it happens. So it's much more of a lottery shot to do that. Hopefully that explains. I know it's making sense in my head. Hopefully I'm able to comprehend that vocally on how I kind of think about when I'm looking at what I'm building in my lineups. But really, it's all in, do I think can a driver first make the top 15 in point total? And that's that 35 point total. If I don't think a driver is going to be capable of getting there, I'm not going to particularly waste my time. So all of a sudden, that automatically will put them into the D or even F group. An F group typically is a Cody Ware or JJ Yaley most of the times. And I don't even think about them anymore. Unless I just absolutely, I'm like, oh crap, I've got $4,500 left. I guess I have to put Cody Ware in this lineup. And sometimes I do that. I don't like it. Sometimes it just happens. So hopefully that made sense. All right. Chase Briscoe, 10,700. So was it last week? The week before last, I was explaining Dirty Air. Let me see if I can find this. I was watching, I got down a rabbit hole this week, but I found a video of a year ago. A guy was challenged in making a drone that could keep up with an F1 car. And he was, so the thing was for him to keep up with an F1 car. So it needed to go, they had to build a drone that would keep up with an F1 car. Well, they ended up getting this F1 car. Well, ended up making this drone. I'm not going to show a whole lot of this because I don't want to get a strike on YouTube. But this is the best example of Dirty Air because you can see the water spray coming off the back of Max Verstappen's car, especially when they get down the straightaway. And we'll just pause it right there. This is what dirty air looks like. So if you had the visual of dirty air, imagine this being, and it's water molecules, but it's air molecules. But imagine trying to be the car behind this. You lose all that downforce. Like Max Verstappen right here has got all the downforce on that front part of his wing because he's the first one to hit that air. Where back here, you've got patches of air that's very disturbed. So you get lift and downforce at the same time, which creates more of an equilibrium instead of a downforce. But I thought this was just absolutely fascinating with the water spray because it really kind of gave you an idea of what it looked like behind a car. And these cars are streamlined. So you can imagine what a next-gen cup car would do. This video is fascinating if you get a chance to go watch it. This is on the Red Bull channel, and it's the world's fastest camera drone versus an F1 car featuring Max Verstappen. So if you get a chance, go check that out. Maybe I'll link it down below. But I thought it was just absolutely fascinating to really see what dirty air actually looks like, even though it's water molecules, and I understand that it's not really air, but it shows the wake behind one of those cars. And the Cup car does the same thing. All cars do it. I mean, you've been driving down the highway and you get behind an 18-wheeler, the amount of dirty air, but once you get close enough, you can actually get into that draft. So that is a little bit different. Sorry. Back to our scheduled program. I just happened to see it this week. I was like, oh, I got to bring that into the discussion. But Chase Briscoe, 10,700. Absolutely the top of the heap so far in the playoffs. Like I said, I think he's got a 5.6 average finish over the last 3 races. So quite amazing. 10,700 starting in 18th. So once again, just kind of like Christopher Bell, this is a great opportunity. So it'll be, I'll have some lineups that will have Christopher Bell and a Ryan Blaney, or a Ryan Blaney and a Chase Briscoe. Maybe even a lineup with all 3, but then you're going to run into real problems because all 3 of those drivers are going to be $10,500 or more. But another great opportunity. Starting in 18th, practice speeds were very similar to Christopher Bell's. 26th in single lap, 24th in 10 lap. But he's got a 49.1 Draftkings average. He finished second this race last year in a Stewart-Haas car. Also remember in the optimal lineups, before last year, the guy that had won this race twice, Martin Truex Jr., in dominating fashion. And what we've seen in the trend this year is, number one, if it's a track that Chase Briscoe's pretty good at, and it's a track that has had dominant performance from the 19 car in the past. Dover's a great example. Gateway was a good example. Chase Briscoe tends to do really, really well at. This is lining up for another track for Chase Briscoe to potentially do very, very well at. Practice speeds are garbage for him. They were for most of Toyota. They were for most everybody, except for Ryan Blaney. But Chase Briscoe, a 9.2 average finish for the 5 races we're comparing to, which is phenomenal. He finished second in this race last year. It's a 14.7 average finish, not great. But most of the tracks that Chase Briscoe's run really well at this year, his average finishes have not been good because he was in, I hate to say it, not great equipment with Stewart-Haas. So he's plus 10 on the cut line, got 2 wins. Let's look at his practice speeds. Scott Harris, what would you cash game picks? Oh, I am. I don't play a lot of cash, Scott, to be perfectly honest. But for cash, Ryan Blaney, as your probably dominant driver or Joe Logano. A Christopher Bell, Chase Briscoe. And, as we go through all these, I can't remember all of them right offhand, but to be perfectly honest, I don't do a lot of cash, and I probably should, because most of my lineups would do better in cash than they do in tournaments, because I kind of play a little bit even with the field. I just have a tough time getting overly risky. And I know to win these big tournaments, you've got to find the sleeper pick, and you've got to find the guy that's not on anybody's radar that's going to be a 5% ownership. So, I mean, that's the same as in NFL or Major League Baseball or any of the DFSs. You've got to get contrarian, and you got to find that sleeper. So, but with cash, you don't necessarily have to do that, because typically all you got to do is be in the top half of the field and you'll double up. So as we go through, I think Chase Briscoe is perfectly fine for cash. I'm not sure I like Denny Hamlin for cash, just because there's not enough points really there to probably be in a decent cash lineup. Where Ryan Blaney or Joey Logano, I would not run both of them, because what you're doing is asking them to split dominating performances between the two of them, and that's number one. It's tough enough to figure out one dominator. It's even harder to figure out two, and especially if both of them are starting pole and outside pole position. So, but Chase Briscoe starting in 19th, plenty of room for a little bit of place differential. He's got really good average finishes here. His practice speed's like junk, though. God, he is all over the board with practice. He'll clean that up. He'll be okay. He and his crew chief will figure it out. So I'm not overly worried about these practice speeds. I don't like them. But a lot of people's practice speeds kind of look like this. So Ryan Blaney's is one of the cleaner lines, even though it really doesn't look that clean, but it's one of the cleaner lines that I've seen in practice. There's just, this track's so wide that you can run so many different lines to make certain things happen that you just get a little variation. It's interesting. But Chase Briscoe starting 18th. So we're looking at this 55 point total as kind of the threshold for the higher end priced drivers. So what does Chase Briscoe need to do starting in 18th to kind of get there? Without leading a whole lot of laps, because that's not something he typically does here. He has decent finishes, but doesn't lead a whole lot of laps. We're going to back his fast laps down to about 5, because he and his crew chief just consistently kind of get there. We need probably a top 4 or 5 out of Briscoe, which I think is definitely absolutely doable. He's got an average finish of probably 7th between the trend line of 5.2, which is the last actual 5 races on normal oval style tracks this year. And then the same track is the 3 races here at Loudon and the 2 Gateway races. He's got a 9.2. So 7th, not out of the way for an average finish, would give him 54.25. Scott, yes, I mean, you're more than welcome. It does take a little bit of time. I go into really in depth. This video is not for the short. It's not a short video. This is long. I answer a lot of questions. I try to answer them in depthly. I try to go over each driver in depthly. About the only spot that I start to skip over is when we get down to the bottom of the barrel, and then I kind of cruise through it pretty quick. But Chase Briscoe definitely, I think, would be in cash. I think Christopher Bell's in cash. I'm not sure I'd run both of them, but I think it's safe to run both of them for cash. But you're going to run out of salary cap real quick, because the next driver, I think, has the best opportunity to be a dominator along with his teammate Joey Logano. And I think if you run a Ryan Blaney in one lineup, cash or tournament, I would not run Joey Logano. Just as if I were run Joey Logano, I'm not sure I run a Ryan Blaney, because you're asking the two of these guys to split being a dominator. And they're going to have to be a dominator by starting first or second, because place differential really does not play all that much here. So it's more just get up front, stay up front. Now let's get all through this. He is starting in second. He was 6th in single lap. He was 1st in 10 lap. We already knew that. And the 5 races we're comparing to, 1 top 5, 1 top 10, 2 top 20s. This is the part that has me a little bit concerned, even though this track type and everything about everything that I'm seeing, this should be a Penske slam dunk. But I thought Gateway was going to be that way too, and it did not turn out to be that way. Ryan Blaney finished 25th in this race last year. He's got 11 total starts. This is the part that even scares me a little bit more about Ryan Blaney and Joey Logano both, is what their average finishes are. He's got a 14th place average finish at Loudon. Starting in second, we can't afford for Ryan Blaney to finish, unless he's going to go lead 150 laps. You can't afford for him to slip past about 5th or 6th place, or it just doesn't work. So the lineups that you build with a Ryan Blaney or Joe Logano have got to be the ones that they lead a lot of laps and they finish where they're starting or better. But this is the part that scares me, an 18.6 average finish between these 5 races. They always just tend to have an issue late in these races. So there is a little bit of a be careful here. But all indications, like I said, we've seen how fast he was in practice. I've got him compared to William Byron here, and William Byron was the second fastest in long run speed. And it doesn't even show up until they get to lap 37. I mean, at that point, we're looking at Ryan Blaney potentially having a 2.5, 3 second lead. And I mean, at that point, it's going to take so long for William Byron to potentially catch up to a Ryan Blaney that it's not going to happen before they need to make pit stops again. And then Ryan Blaney will just go out and get another. If we had no cautions and it was just the two of them on the track, Ryan Blaney will end up lapping William Byron. So yeah. So what does Ryan Blaney have to do? How many laps can he lead? And if he doesn't win, how far back can he fall and still potentially be a driver that I like? And I like playing the Ryan Blaney part. So starting in second, if he leads 75 laps, which is, let's give him a third. It should be 100. If that's the case, he'll probably have at least 30 fast laps. May have more than that. Oh no! I'm sorry, Pope. I'll try to be quiet. I'll whisper the rest of the time so she falls back asleep. I'm kidding. I won't do that because it'll drive everybody else nuts. You can just turn me down. How's that? Not my fault. Yeah, I know. I used to have a baby. I still have a baby. He's just really big now. But yeah, if he goes and leads 100 laps and 30 fast laps, if he starts second and he finishes 13th, it still gets above that 55 point total that we talked about. I don't really love that the case because, I mean, I'd much rather him do all that and at least get a top 5. And that's 74 points. So it's absolutely going to be, do you want to build the lineup? And this is all, you've got to build the story of the race when you're building the lineup. You have to go, okay, I think that Ryan Blaney is going to get around Joey Logano to start this race, and I think he's going to go and lead the first stage. Well, the first stage is 70 laps. And then I think if that's the case, because you're starting in second, you're going to have a good pit stall selection. You're probably going to be able to get a couple more laps in there led. And then you'll probably have 30 fast laps. So, but like I said, he can fall all the way back to almost 15th, 14th, and still be in that, I think, optimal range. That's not ideal, but it could still work with him getting his average finish. So that's why I kind of like the Ryan Blaney. Once again, you have to pair him up correctly with other drivers, though. Kyle Larson, this is another one. This may be a decent cash pick also. But once again, we're in the $10,000 range still. We're going to run out of salary cap real fast if we're trying to hit 3 of these drivers in this price range. Starting in 16th, got some room to run for place differential. He's got an 8.6 average finish here with the 5 races we're comparing to. He does not win a lot, but he has good, solid finishes. And starting in 16th, this is another one that he probably won't go lead a whole lot of laps. So we're going to need for him to probably get into a top 4 situation. Well, he finished 4th there last year. So, yeah, but we look at his practice speeds, they're better than some. They're still nowhere near as good as Ryan Blaney's. They're better than the average. And he's starting in 16th, not far from that average starting spot. So, I don't mind the Kyle Larson play at all. Like I said, I don't think he's going to go and lead a ton of laps. He may not even have a whole lot of fast laps. Kind of put him at the same spot. We'll give him 5. We'll be generous. And he is starting in 16th. I think he's going to need to get to at least 5th. Probably 4th. Yeah. 4th or better would just get him into that 55-point range. So, a little risky, a little tough, but I definitely still like the Kyle Larson play. He would be, like, I think I like Christopher Bell first, Briscoe second, Larson third in that B tier. And I think my B tier is a decent tier to look at for decent cash lineups. So, a Ryan Blaney paired up with a Kyle Larson. A Ryan Blaney with any of the 3 that we just talked about that are starting 16th, 18th, and 19th, all decent drivers, all should have pretty good finishes, or at least top 10s, and you don't need to get a massive, huge total to win cash lineups. Joey Logano, $10,000 starting on the pole. Joey Logano did do the tire test here. Who else did the tire test here? I remember reading it. Goodyear notes, tire test. Christopher Bell did the tire test, Ross Chastain, and Joey Logano. So those are 3 drivers that are going to have a little bit of an edge, and I thought we would have seen that edge in practice, but we did not. Now, they did it about a month and a half ago. The weather was different. It was warmer. Tires react a little bit differently to temperatures, as we saw last week at Bristol. Literally 5 degrees, and the tires disintegrated. So, I don't think we're going to see that for this race tomorrow, but I mean, at this case, all bets are off for anything. But either way, I think Joe Logano was practicing in race trim and not in qualifying trim. And I think they knew what they needed to do for qualifying, and that's why he went out and just laid a lap down. I mean, he was almost 0.3 faster than Josh Berry. Now, Ryan Blaney came back, but I think even Ryan Blaney was a 1/10.5 off of Joey Logano's speed. So Joey put down a blistering lap. And if we look at his practice speeds, they're not far off from Ryan. They're about a 10th off until we kind of get to about lap 30, 25, 26, and then they start to equalize out a little bit. But once again, playing the Joey Logano play, the scenario is he's going to have to go and lead 100 of the 300 laps. So if we're giving 100 laps to Ryan and we're giving 100 laps to Joey, and we'll give him 25 fast laps, and he's starting from the pole, he can fall to second and be perfectly fine. And this is 55 points. Sorry about that. And how far back can he fall? 10th. Oops, this is first. Sorry about that. All right. 10th gives him 54 points. So lead 100 laps, 25 fast laps. He could fall to 12th, I think. Yeah. So if Joe Logano and Ryan Blaney are able to split time leading, then this is even more of just a dream shot here. How could the pole sitter and outside pole sitter make the optimal or close to the optimal and finish both outside the top 10, well, they both have to lead 100 laps and have 25 fast laps. It's possible. It's doable. Highly unlikely. But there is a spot that can happen. I said I don't like the thought process of playing both the pole sitter and outside pole sitter for this situation. William Byron, $9,800, starting in 5th. We already know he was fast in practice. He was fast in single lap, and he was second fast in 10 lap. He was the other comparing driver to Ryan Blaney. And it was a toss-up which one I do, but Ryan Blaney was hands down much faster. But we look at his Loudon experience in the last 5 races that we're comparing to, the Loudons and the Gateways, only 3 top 20s, no top 10s. He's only got a 16.5 Draftkings average, 17.4 average finish. Finished 26th in this race last year. It doesn't look great. Only half the time he finishes in the top 20, he's never finished in the top 10 out of all 6 of his starts. With that being said, he has shown so far in the first 3 weeks of the playoffs, they have a tendency to do well in qualifying, and they just start making mistakes, either on pit road or restarts or whatnot. So I'm probably going to put William Byron on the outside looking in, because I don't... Can he win? Absolutely. He's got 2 wins on the season. But the trend line for him at Loudon, it's not great. Like I said, we've looked at his practice speeds when we looked at Ryan Blaney's, so not bad. Not as good as Ryan's. And he's starting in 5th. I would give the edge still here to Ryan Blaney, because William Byron's going to have to go lead a bunch of laps, because if he doesn't lead any laps, and he only has 5 fast laps, even if he finishes in 3rd, it's only 45 points. Well, that's above the 15 total of 35, but he's still 10 points outside of the optimal potential. And in 9,500, that's the way I play it. So he would probably be in my sub core group. Because it's William Byron, he's still driving for Hendrick. He could still potentially win this race. He still potentially could lead some laps. It's not a complete all-out fade, but it's probably going to be much closer to the 10% owned than anything. So, if anything, the William Byron play might be kind of... No, I wouldn't even say that. I was going to say might be a little bit sneaky. It could be. I don't think William Byron's going to go out and be 20% owned or 25% owned. He probably might fall in the 15%. So, I think Ryan Blaney is going to be probably the top 3 most owned drivers, along with probably Chase Elliott, because Chase Elliott, as we see here, is starting in 27th. And he was okay in practice. I don't know what they do to his car to set it up for qualifying. I don't know if they almost intentionally set it up to go out and have bad qualifying spots, but this is the 4th week in a row that he has not qualified well at all. And it has almost cost him in not getting through to this next round. He almost missed. So Chase Elliott, $9,500, starting in 27th. Oh, he's not 9,500, he's 9,200. Starting in 27th, a lot of place differential. He's got the name recognition. He's with Hendrick. He's got an average finish of 9.6 here, or the 5 races we're comparing to, a 13.4 of the 10 starts with 2 top 5s. There's not much not to like here. He just missed in qualifying. So, yeah, lots of place differential here. If he goes and gets to his average finish of 12th, which is a combination of the 2. But yeah, if we look at the trend line for the last 5 races, Chase Elliott has a 22.6 average finish. That's disgusting for Chase Elliott and Hendrick. Yeah, if he doesn't make it through this round, there's going to be I think there potentially is going to be some decent movement over at Hendrick Motorsports. Maybe not with drivers, but with crew chiefs. I really don't want that because I really like Cliff Daniels and Kyle Larson together. But yeah, Chase Elliott, 27th. I mean, get to a 10th, and you're almost at the 55-point optimal. 8th would probably, 9th would probably do it. 8th would do it. Now, 3 fast laps might be generous for Chase Elliott. He's just not one, unless he happens to be leading the race, is going to go out and blister anything up. He's just going to be Mr. Consistent all day, try to be as quiet as he can, and be there at the end. But yeah, all he's got to do is get to 8th, and he's above the 55-point line. So I think Chase Elliott's probably a really good, safe cash option, where I don't think William Byron's all that great of a cash option. Tyler Reddick, there's another one that I really don't like for cash, starting in 4th, 8,700. Because I'm running the scenario that I think Ryan Blaney or Joe Logano lead a lot of the laps tomorrow. It's all indications. It's a flat, somewhat short track. The Team Penske drivers typically do extremely well at that style track. Tyler Reddick, $8,700. Tyler Reddick's not good at short course at short track style racing or flat tracks. I mean, he's got a 10.6 average finish. I mean, that's fine, but he's starting in 4th. If he goes and gets a 10th, doesn't lead any laps, he's in the same boat, if not worse, than where William Byron is. So, I mean, right out of the gate, I mean, he's got 5 total starts at New Hampshire, 3 top 10s, but no top 5s. A 12.5 average finish. Practice speeds were, I mean, kind of like the rest of the Toyotas, just kind of run the average line. But you had the Ryan Blaney's out there that just went out and set the world on fire today. So yeah, put him on the chart here, or the calculator. Start in 4th. Finish in, let's say, 10th. Have 3 fast laps. Doubtfully leads any laps. Maybe he does. I don't think so. It's a 29.35. I mean, even if now that we're under the $9,000 range, we could possibly push the optimal down to 50. Scott, you asked Blaney and Bell on one team, Blaney and Briscoe for other cash games. I think any of those combinations are fine. And I'm not saying that I have created a storyline in my world. You have to create your own storyline. So I think because of all the things leaning towards Penske, I like the Blaney and I like the Joey Logano plays. So with that being said, they're probably, between the two of them, will get 60% of my lineups. Not equally. Like, Ryan Blaney could probably be in 35 to 40% of my lineups, and 25 to 30% of my lineups might be Joe Logano. So between the two of them, they're going to encompass probably 60% of my lineups, one or the two of them. I also have a weird, sick, twisted sense of humor in my brain that literally lap 1, whoever's in the bottom goes in and blows out a tire and takes out the other one out. And then I go, well, crap, there goes 60% of my lineups. That's why I'm not going to run like 100%. So cash is a little different. You can run multiples in cash tournaments, but it gets a little wonky. And I don't know. My mind doesn't wrap around well with cash. Other than I know you want to play the safest of safe options. Tyler Reddick is definitely not one of those. Because you're just trying to beat half the field. Is all you're doing with cash lineups. The best I know of it. And I probably really should play cash more. I'd probably win more. I just wouldn't be in line to win $5,000 or something stupid. I mean, cash lineups is much more like playing like regular betting. All right, back to our regular scheduled program here. So I don't like the Tyler Reddick play at all. Number one, he's not good at flat tracks. He's not good at short tracks. And he's starting in fourth. So I'll fade off of Tyler Reddick. He'll be definitely in my second core group, maybe even in my DF group. I just don't think I'm going to get too much ownership of him. Bubba Wallace is actually much better at this style track, but he's not really even that good. But he's got 10 spots of place differential potential on him. So, I mean, we gave Tyler Reddick a 10th place finish. Bubba Wallace starts at 14th, gets a 10th. It might end up playing. But I don't love the Bubba Wallace call play either. $8,500 starting in 14th. I mean, for what, $1,000 more, I can go and get, well, all right, $1,500 more. No, it's more than that. Kyle Larson's $10,200. But Chase Elliott at 9,200 is going to get more ownership than Bubba Wallace. So this is where it becomes sneaky, but I also don't love it either by any means. He's +1 to the good on the cut line. $8,500 starting in 14th. He was 7th and 22nd. His practice speeds were pretty good. He finished 34th in this race last year. 6 total starts, 1 top 5, 2 top 10s. Not awful. 22nd place average finish. So his practice speeds. I mean, kind of like the rest of the Toyotas. I mean, he's got a couple laps that get real wonky. But other than that, he kind of runs the average line. So, probably going to finish somewhere in the teens. I just don't know if that cuts it. I hope that doesn't happen and take each other. Yeah, and like I said, it's my sick, twisted mind that comes up with that. That probably is not going to be the case. Both of them are very, very courteous and safe drivers, especially around teammates. But there are unexpected things that happen. Tires blow out and debris on a track or whatnot. It does happen, but let's hope not. I mean, what was it? Gateway 3 weeks ago? Josh Berry, lap 1, turn 1? Or was that was Darlington. And it almost took out Tyler Reddick. So, yeah, I mean, weird things happen sometimes. Bubba Wallace, $8,500 starting 14th. If he gets to second, I mean, all right, he's not going to lead that many laps. At least I don't think he will. At least not in the story that I've built in my head. We'll give him the 5 fast laps like we do everybody when we put him on the calculator, just because, it's possible. I mean, if he gets to second, it's 56 points. He's going to need to get 50 points or more, because we've got none of the $9,000 spot. So he can get the 5th, have 5 fast laps, start at 14th, and he's kind of there. I don't mind some Bubba Wallace as potential cash lineups. Not my favorite call, but I don't mind it. Let's put it that way. For tournaments, nah. I'd probably put it at close to like a 10 to 15% ownership. So probably in my sub-core group, just asking Bubba Wallace to go get a 5th place finish. Is it possible? Sure. But he's got a 16.4 over the last 5 races this year on traditional overs. At the 5 races that we're comparing to, it's a 14.8. So average place of 15th. Starting in 14th. It doesn't give us a whole lot. Ross Chastain, $8,300. Starting in 8th, he was 30th in single lap, 31st in 10 lap consecutive average. Not good and not good. For the 5 races we're comparing to, 2 top 10s, no top 5s. He's starting in the top 10, and he's going to definitely need to get to a top 5 if he's going to be in any type of lineup construction that I have. So probably means I'm not going to have a whole lot of Ross Chastain, just thinking about it. 15.4 average finish for the 5 races you're comparing to, and at New Hampshire, 5 starts. No top 5s, 3 top 10s, 12.8 average finish, starting in 8th. That's a negative place differential. Look at his practice speeds. They're not pretty. They are at average or worse than average. And if we look at his current trend line for the last 5 races of this year, 16.8 is his average finish. So combination, that's going to be a 16th place average finish. Starting in 8th, just to get to that 50-point threshold that we've been talking about for the drivers under $9,000. Probably, we'll leave it at 0. We'll give him the 5 we give everybody. And if he gets to 4th, he's still short on that 50-point total. 46.25. So he's going to need to get to 2nd with 5 fast laps, would put him at the 50. I don't. It's going to be really, really tough for Ross Chastain to get a 2nd place finish. Is it possible? Sure. Nothing on the trend lines tell me that that's going to be something that probably happens. But sure, can it happen? Absolutely. Man. Actually, I've got South Carolina plus 10, so we're still good at this point. Sorry, I bet on South Carolina to get the 10. They were getting 10 points against Missouri. A 9-point game now with 2 minutes left, I think. I'm good on that bet. Ty Gibbs, $8,100. Man, he had a heck of a race last week. Starting in 13th, he was decent in practice, 8th in single lap, 4th in 10-lap consecutive average. For the 4, so 2 of the last Loudons and the last 2 Gateway races, he has a 16th place average finish, which is not bad for Ty Gibbs. 16th place average finish for Loudon. All indications are he's going to finish 16th at this point. And he finished 16th place last year here. So, yeah, pretty good indication he's probably going to end up finishing 16th. Not saying that's actually going to be true, but he fired off really, really fast, and then it kind of just went to average. Pope says Florida could come back to beat Miami and keep the coach. I mean, they could. I bet you they won't, though. I think Miami turns up the heat here and it takes it to them. Yeah, minute 35 left in the South Carolina-Missouri game, and I'm still winning by 1 point because South Carolina's getting 10. So as long as they don't throw a pick 6, and I think actually because South Carolina's out of timeouts, that Missouri would just kneel on it. So, 13-7 game. Yeah, I've got it on that TV over there. I've got the South Carolina-Missouri game over there. What did I get? I don't know if I have it up. Let's see. Hold on. I got my bets over here somewhere. I took Miami, and Miami was giving up. What was Miami giving up? 3 or 7? 7.5. So I'm going to need Miami to score, and Florida's got the ball. 13 minutes left in the game. All right. We'll be finishing up this stream at about the time that finishes. All right. Back to regular schedule programming, which is NASCAR DFS, talk and practice and qualifying. Ty Gibbs starting in 13th, average finish of 16th. Yeah, I mean, all indications, everything's pointing to 16th place finish here. But we'll say no laps led. We'll give him the 5 like we give everyone else for fast laps. And he's only going to need to get to 50 points to make potential optimal. So how, 5th place? Did that do it? Close. 4th place. So 5th or 4th place for Ty Gibbs. Outside shot, yes. McGregor back versus Chandler. I think Dana is promising $50 million. He dropped out of the. Did he drop out of the Irish presidency run already? Oh, interesting if he did that. That's a shame. He would have been actually kind of cool. But yeah, I'm not sure actually how good of a president he would have been for Ireland. It would have been fun though. Ty Gibbs, $8,100. That's a shame. I don't mind the Ty Gibbs play. That's probably not going to be something that's going to be super heavily owned. So this is where you playing in tournaments. I don't think I'd love Ty Gibbs for cash. But for tournaments, this probably is a maybe 10% ownership. Probably might even be a little bit less. So this could be kind of a sneaky play. So for sneaky plays, I kind of like the Ty Gibbs play, which would probably put him somewhere in my sub-core group of drivers, but kind of towards the top of that sub-core group. Kyle Busch. Kyle Spinny Busch. I think he has spun more out this year than than Ricky Spenhouse has spun people out. Pope asked, so when you said on Ross, is that mean we shouldn't play him in GPP? Like if I'm running 20-ish, I probably won't get him. Ross was starting in 8th place. Yeah, I probably will not get to very much ownership of Ross. It's just too many things would have to happen for him to really end up paying off. I think the chances that he ends up in any type of optimal lineup or lineup that you end up doing well in, some really weird things are going to have to happen. So I don't like the Ross play for cash or for tournaments. Other than the fact he might have a little bit slightly low ownership, like probably somewhere between 12 and 15% ownership. So for Ross, I'm probably going to fade away from it. I'll definitely be underweight on him. So it might be like 1 or 2 lineups. Yeah. Missouri got the ball back and they're just kneeling on it. So that bet will cover. Miami, I think, went 3 and out and punted. So Florida will have a chance to make a comeback here. We'll see, though. We'll give you play-by-play commentary. Kidding. Talking about NASCAR. Kyle Busch, $7,900. Starting 24th. Oh, Spinny Bush. What do we do with Spinny Bush? He has a 34th in single lap, 32 in single lap. He has an average finish in the 5 races we're comparing to of 28th. He finished 35th in this race last year. 32 total starts. This is how bad it has gotten for Kyle Busch. He has 32 total starts, 3 wins and 11 top 5s. And those 32, so a third of the time he's finishing in the top 5 with an 18.4 average finish. That's rough. That means, and that's what's showing here, of a 28th place average finish is just driving this number worse and worse. It has not been good, and he does not even run 1 lap of practice. Not even 1 lap of practice at better than average. And he's starting just at about the average spot. So you tell me. I think at best he finishes where he starts. And that, I mean, even if he goes and gets to his average finish over the last 5 races, which is 14th, not going to lead any laps. We'll give him 3 fast laps. That's only 40 points. Sure, that probably puts him in the top 15, but it puts it at the bottom end of that top 15. And I'm not sure that really happens, to be perfectly honest. I mean, it's abysmal. 28th place finish. So, could it happen? Sure. I'm going to be a fade off of Kyle Busch. Just nothing anywhere in any stat that says that the trend of being in 14th is going to continue. So, yeah. I'm going to fade off of Kyle Busch. You can do whatever you want with him. There's no indications that it's going to turn out good. Chris Buescher, $7,700, starting in 15th. And they had the most cryptic tweet about Chris Buescher earlier that made absolutely no sense. I'm still trying to figure if somebody just had double thumbs on their ex-Twitter account, but it was really strange. I have to pull it up. Where was that? Because it was really cryptic and really weird. I wonder if they deleted it yet. RFK Racing. Yeah, let's here. I'll just pull this over. It is the most cryptid thing. Chris Buescher confirms that RFK Racing were once, they are dead. They became the first ever to have the first, as in the era of that when of NASCAR racing began. Congratulations, Chris. Did Kamala Harris write that? Because that makes absolutely no sense. It's the most cryptic tweet ever. I have no earthly idea. Somebody with RFK's social media team needs to explain. Because it makes no sense. Just thought that was interesting too. I always bring the most interesting thing to this topic in conversation. We talk about college football. We talk about NFL. We talk about drones and F1s. We talk a little bit about NASCAR too. Chris Buescher starting in 15th. 19th in single lap, 21st in 10 lap consecutive average, a 12th place average finish, 15.9 average running position. He finished 5th in this race last year. 10 total starts, 1 top 5, 1 top 10, 4 top 20s. So 22.3 average finish. Not great on the averages there. But if we look at the practice speeds, it's just about average. So, yeah. The trend line currently is 14th place average finish. 12th place for the 5 races we're comparing to. Okay, all those indications are pretty good. So 13th. Starting in 15th, though, if you just go to 13th, it's not going to be enough. It's $7,700. 15th to 13th does not cut it. That's 5. 34.25. That doesn't even make the top 15. So that definitely doesn't cut it. How far up would Chris Buescher need to finish to be even possibly playable? All right. And it's not 55, it's 50. This line gets cut down under $7,000. If everybody's wondering. So 45 points under $7,000. We're still at the 50-point range, and that's at $7,700. That would cut it. Would need 5 fast laps and finish in 5th. Outside shot, I would put him in my sub-core group. Brad Keselowski, his teammate and owner, $7,600. Maybe Brad Keselowski was the one who fumbled through that tweet or post. $7,600 starting in 17th, 29th in single lap, 25th in 10 lap consecutive average. Has a 12th place average finish for the 5 races we're comparing to, with 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s. He finished 28th in this race last year, though. 23 total starts, 10 of those being in the top 5. So 10 out of 23 top 5s, 2 wins. That's really good. 19 out of 23, he's finished in the top 20. An 11.5 average finish. I mean, all the average finishes look to be pretty good. That's with the 28th place finish last year here. All right. Practice speeds were not as many as a lot of other people and about average. At least he had a couple laps that were faster than average. Ooh. I'm telling you, practice was weird today. At least the practice speeds were just... Oh, Crockett did. Oh, we got to be nice. No, we don't. I gave up being nice after last week. Oops, starting in 17th. Yeah, I try not to bring politics into this show. So we'll just leave all of that there. I shouldn't have made the comment that I made earlier, if that were the case. I really should have a political show, though. I have a lot to say. Average finish at 12, starting in 17th. That's 40.5. Not going to get to the 50 that way. So how far up does Brad Keselowski need to get? 7th? Maybe 8th? Oh, that's with 10 fast laps. We're not giving him a 10. We're giving him 5. Yeah, so he's going to get the 7th, 6th or 7th place. I think there's an outside shot for Brad to do that. And at $7,600, I mean, I think Brad would possibly fall into my B tier as like my fourth or fifth place guy in that B tier. And because I only really have, I think, what, 3 drivers in my A tier, you could probably slide Bell and Busher into that A tier, and slide everybody up, and then moves Brad into this grouping. Because it's really not a place differential for Brad. It's more of just having a consistent run all day, not lead a whole lot of laps, but just get a solid top 10 finish. And that puts him there. So I like the Brad play. Probably like 20% ownership for Brad. And I think that's probably going to be a little bit more than the field. So, Austin Cindric, starting in 22nd. Did Austin Cindric miss the memo that Penske was supposed to all qualify up front? I guess so, because all of his teammates left him high and dry, because they're all starting up front, including Josh Berry, 1, 2, 3. And Austin Cindric, poor Austin Cindric, is going to start 22nd. All lonely back there. Poor Austin. He's -1 on the cut line, too. He's on the outside looking in there. He's got a 15.4 average finish for the 5 races we're comparing to. He did have the 1 win of the 2024 Gateway race. A 16.6 average running position. He's got 3 total starts here at New Hampshire and never finished in the top 10. Twice in the top 20, 16th place average finish. I could see taking some shots on Austin Cindric because I think he just missed qualifying. His practice speeds were definitely a little wonky, but they did end up getting the adjustments right, and he ended up running fairly well at the end of practice. So I'll give it to that. Maybe they were spending more time on getting the speeds where they needed to be, and were not necessarily concerned with the qualifying setup. So maybe he just missed there. But I think there's room to run for Austin Cindric. I think there's a good chance he gets to probably 12th. We'll give him the standard 5 fast laps, and let's give him to 12th. Oops, starting in 22nd, Mark. 22nd. 43.25. I mean, it's really honestly still on the outside of the 50-point optimal line that we're looking for. It does put him in the top 15. So I think Austin Cindric would be probably sub-core, maybe in that C/D range. Maybe like a 15% ownership stake in Austin. Not a whole lot, because I just don't trust it. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm going to put Austin Cindric. Josh Berry. I mean, it's either sunshine and rainbows or it's storm clouds and just a complete washout for Josh Berry. I'm either going to qualify really well and wreck in the first lap, or I'm not going to qualify well and still wreck and finish last. I don't know of another driver that's ever finished last place in the first round of the playoffs in all 3 races. And Josh Berry has now accomplished that. Well, you can check that box off, Josh. You did it. Starting in 3rd. I mean, his practice speeds were good. He's got a 25th place average finish for the 5 races we're comparing to. And actually, it's only 3. He's only got 1 start at Loudon where he did finish 3rd. So that was his best. So he actually does run this track well. And it really honestly suits his driving style. He likes the larger, flat style tracks. He runs Richmond pretty well. But I don't think he runs it well enough to do much with the 3rd place starting spot. Now, I have seen Josh Berry, and this is the crazy thing about Josh. Josh will go out there, and he'll actually, something will happen with the times I don't run Josh Berry, and I do not plan on running Josh Berry much at all, maybe in 2 out of 40 lineups. So like a 5% ownership on Josh Berry. And it will strictly be, I'm not going to run Blaney or Logano, and I'll throw Josh Berry in there just as a one-off. Like run a Josh Berry and run it back with Larson, Bell, Briscoe, and then 2 cheap guys. And you've got your guys starting up front. And the reason potentially why this ends up happening is Josh Berry does seem, let's say they slip in turn 1, turn 3 at the first lap, and Josh is able to get to the lead. He could easily run 70 laps of the first stage or 60 laps of the first stage out, because we look at his practice laps, they're good. I mean, they fall right in line, especially by lap 19. He is right there with Ryan Blaney for the rest of it, and he's not far off in practice. So his practice speeds validated his starting spot. The problem, he's got an average finish of 25th or 31st, 32nd over the last 5 races. So he's going to have to lead a bunch of laps. But the question is, how far back can he fall? So let's say he does, by lap 10, end up getting to the lead. And he leads the 60 laps remaining of that first stage. And if that's the case, let's be generous and give him 20 fast laps. And if he falls to 10th, that still puts him at 51 points, which is above the optimal line. And this price is not right for Josh. No, yeah, it was right. 7,400. Austin Center was not right at 7,500. Sorry about that. So there is a storyline that you can build with Josh Berry and him being in or at close to the optimal lineup. It takes a lot, and it's a long story, and it's not really that believable, especially with his last 3 races he's had. But it is wild enough for Josh Berry to potentially win this damn race. Finish last 3 times in a row and then go win the first race out of the playoffs. I've seen crazier things happen in this sport. So it is absolutely within the realm of reasons. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'll run 2 lineups back with Josh Berry in it without Blaney or Byron in it. So, no, Blaney or Logano. Sorry. I was like, why did I say 3 Bs in a row? Back when all the Bs were winning at the start of the season. Bell, Byron, Blaney. All right, Carson Hocevar. Man, Carson was close to getting a win last week, too. It's fascinating to see which one of these 2 kids is going to get it first. Is Carson or Ty Gibbs going to get a win first? I say it every week. I just don't know. I still have my money on Carson Hocevar, just because he's more of a wild card. Carson the Chaos Hocevar. Heck with this hurricane stuff. It's Carson Chaos Hocevar. $7,200 starting in 6th. He was 22 in single lap, 19th in 10 lap consecutive average, 13.3 average finish, and he's only raced here once, and he finished 17th here last year. This is actually for 3 starts, or 4 starts. He's got the 2 at Gateway, 1 at Loudon. It's 3. Touchdown Miami. So I do not think, Pope, that your thoughts of Florida coming back are going to happen. And I think that should hopefully cover the spread. I could use that. That would put me back positive for the day. That can end up happening because I have it parlayed with the South Carolina game. Carson Hocevar 7,200 starting in 6. I mean, I don't like this play at all. He's starting way too far up. But let's run the scenario that he does go and finish in first, and he leads 40 laps and has 10 fast laps. It's 64 points. I might run it back just because he's a wild card enough that it could potentially happen. I don't think the scenario ends up happening, but I may just run some off the cuff lineups with him in it. So I can understand leaving him off. I would not run him in a cash lineup if Scott, you're still out there. So I would not run him in a cash lineup. It is absolutely in a this is your sneaky pick type of thing, completely contrarian. He's going to be probably 5 to 8% ownership. If you happen to be in that grouping with it and it does hit, you'll probably end up having a really, really good day. But the chances are slim that ends up happening. Ryan Preece, who grew up not far from this racetrack in New Hampshire, has a ton of experience here, has got some modified wins at this racetrack, definitely knows how to get around this place. $7,000 starting in 23rd. He was third fastest in single lap of practice, 11th and 10 lap consecutive average. But he's got a 24th place average finish, which just makes me go, this is your home track, bud. What are you doing? Now, he's outperformed most of his stats being in the RFK car. Okay, let's look at your practice speeds. That's last. Oh, we don't have his practice stuff in there. Sorry. I was like, that doesn't look right. That's not. That's from Bristol last week. 11th fastest 10 lap. Okay. So this is a place differential play. This is probably in my C tier core group. Even though there is not much out here that tells me his average finishes are all in the 20th spot. But let's say he gets to 10th. Honestly, that's all he's going to need to do at $7,000. Get to 10th or better. And have, that's 10 fast laps. We'll give you 5 fast laps, like we do for everybody. 49.25. So he needs a 9th place or better. I'll definitely have some shots on Ryan Preece. Am I going to be super heavily owned on it? No, 15, 20%. But I'll definitely have some ownership. It'll be in my sub-core, but in my C grouping of drivers. Alex Bowman, $6,800. I can see right now, Carson Hocevar is going to go finish first. I know, Josh Berry's going to go get first. Carson Hocevar is going to finish second, and Alex Bowman's going to finish third. And I think if you put that into a parlay, you could probably bet $10 and probably win $10,000 or something crazy. But Alex Bowman starting in 7th. After an abysmal first round of the playoffs, he is out just like Josh Berry is out. Not surprised. But starting in 7th, I mean, his practice speeds were not good. 32nd in single lap, 27th in 10 lap. We look at the 5 races we're comparing to. 1 top 10, a 27.8 average finish, 12 total starts here at New Hampshire. 1 finish in the top 10 for 23.3 average finish. And your practice speeds were better than your teammates, but not very good. Not for a 7th place starting spot. And the trend line for them, for Alex Bowman, is about god awful. 19.6 over the last 5 races, 27.8 for the 5 races that are similar to this race. I go finish in 3rd even. I don't expect you to lead a lot of laps. It gets you to 47. So, I mean, it might put you in there, but I don't think Alex Bowman goes and finishes 3rd when he's got an average finish of 27.8 over the last 5 races at similar style tracks. I just don't see it. So, Alex Bowman's a fade for me. Probably going to be a fade for most. So, I mean, that could be a sneaky pick, but I'll take Carson Hocevar against Alex Bowman all day, and if Alex Bowman happens to beat him, okay. AJ Allmendinger, 6,600, starting in 12th. I mean, if AJ can figure out how to practice, qualify, and race as good as he does on Saturday, he'd be really, really good again. 2nd in practice, 5th in 10 lap average on practice, starting in 12th. All indications he should have a pretty good race. But then we look at his average finishes. It's 23rd at New Hampshire over 20 starts, and it's a 19.3 over the 5 races we're comparing to. So probably about a 20th, and you're starting in 12th. And he's done nothing but burn everybody every week for the last 5 weeks. So I've lost all faith in AJ Allmendinger. I'm a big AJ fan, but I will be a fade on AJ. He's not starting far enough back. And even if he just kind of runs and has a decent little bit of a day, I don't think he leads any laps. We'll give him 3 fast laps. It's a 41.35. It's in the top 35. It's in the top 15 because it's 35 or better. But that's asking AJ to go get an 8th when all he's done is screw up the last couple of weeks. So I don't trust AJ. If he burns me this week, he burns me. I'm going to be a fade on it. Austin Dillon, $6,500, starting in 28th. At least his practice speeds seem to be faster than his teammate. Austin Dillon's no longer in the playoffs either. Austin typically runs this flat style tracks fairly well. He did at Richmond. He did okay at Gateway. It wasn't great, but it was okay. If we look at the 5 races, the 3 Loudons and 2 Gateways, he's got a 17.8 average finish. He's starting in 28th. He finished 10th in this race last year. Okay, I mean, all indications are pretty good. His practice speeds, he fired off fast, and then it didn't go well after that, let's say. So that part's a little bit concerning, but starting in 28th, we've got room to run. I don't trust him, but there's room to run. This would be definitely C group or maybe even sub core group. I'm not even sure we give him the obligatory 5. We'll give him 3 fast laps. And I'm not even sure that really happens. I'm being nice. Get to 15th, it's 42.35 points, which is still not really enough. Because at this point, you could probably say 45 points would get these guys into an optimal lineup. The only time we get to sub 40 is once we get down to $5,000 or less. But the 5,000 to 6,500, it's about 45 points. Has a potential to be in the optimal lineup. So Austin Dillon, I will have some, like I said, C group of my core group or just in my sub core. I'll run some Austin Dillon. Not going to be a huge exposure. It's going to be probably 15, maybe 20% ownership. But I mean, he falls into the grouping of place differential. He's still inside the top 30. Little Rainey, you almost won the $50,000 first contest Sunday. Was in second half of the race, but finished like 500. Yeah. Last week, yeah, it was a great race to watch as a race fan. It was really rough to watch as a DFS guy because it was up and down and up and down and up and down. You just had no clue until probably the last 10 laps who was actually going to end up doing well. So, yeah, there's so many times that I have almosts. I have a lot of almost. I almost had one today. Till about halfway through the final stage, and all of a sudden it just started to fall off slowly but surely. Yeah, I mean, I don't put a whole lot in the truck race. I think I bet like $60, or I put $60 in Draftkings, in lineups. And at one point I was winning 800. That was way early in the race though. And then started stage 3, I was at like 120, $130. And then by the middle of the third stage, I was at like $60. And by the end, I was at like $32. I was like, well, okay. Time for a car ride to get her back to sleep. Oh man, that stinks, Pope. I'm sorry. Well, good luck. If you're listening on the car ride, do not text me back. But good luck tomorrow. If I don't hear from you the rest of the night, I appreciate you tuning in. We will see you next Saturday before the Kansas race. We get to go visit Dorothy in Kansas. I still haven't been to Kansas, and my family's from Kansas. I need to go to a race out there. Okay, Austin Dillon. 15th doesn't quite cut it. Can he get to 13th? 13th would cut it. So do we think Austin Dillon can get to 13th? I think so. Where did he finish last year? 10th. Yeah. I'll have some Austin Dillon. He'll be in my C grouping or my sub high end on my sub core. Probably my C group of my core group. Laura, Kansas is the only one I've been to. It's your home track. Well, Little Rainey, are you from Kansas or Missouri or another state close? because my family is from Holton, Kansas. It's about an hour north of Topeka. We've got a small. What's funny is I guess I could have said earlier in this video that I wouldn't bet the farm on it. I was like, oh, I got to own a farm. Well, my family does own a farm. It's just in my dad's name right now. So listening to the earbud. Message once I get back. Well, good luck. Hopefully she falls back asleep. But yeah, a little rainy. We've got a family farm up in Holton, Kansas, just to the northeast side of Holton. So when I need to rearrange my trips instead of for harvest, I need to come out there before harvest. And the harvest is coming up. Austin Dillon, 6,500. Yeah, we already talked about him. I'll have some ownership in him. As long as with Eric Jones, 6,300 starting in 26th. 13th in single lap, 34th in 10 lap consecutive average. It seems to be the case for a lot of these guys starting in the back. Like they hit early and then it just kind of faded off on them. 18th average finish for the 5 racers we're comparing to, 19.4 for this track. So nothing superb. I will say Legacy has really started to come on towards the end of the season. They're really starting to have a strong end to their season. So, oops, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to change this to 26th. Put them on the calculator. Let's see what we've got. I mean, a 10th place finish would definitely do it with 2 fast laps. We don't need him to get to 45. We not to 50. We need to get him to 45. So, what is that? 13th, maybe? No, 12th. We need a top 12 from Eric Jones. I think it's possible. I'll probably have just kind of about the same amount of ownership in Austin Dillon as I will Eric Jones, which will be probably in that 15-20% range. They've got good value. They're easy to play. They're easy to fit. You can run an Austin Dillon, an Eric Jones, a John Hunter Nemechek, and then run 3 expensive guys, because that's 18, maybe 19,000 gives you 31,000 towards the top. So I mean, you could almost run 3 $10,000 guys in those 3 guys, and it ends up working out. And these guys are all, in my opinion, lined up to be potential optimals. John Hunter Nemechek, 24th in single lap, 29th in 10 lap consecutive average, starting in 29th. A good place differential starting spot for John Hunter Nemechek, who has a 13.7 average finish for the last 2 Loudon 2 Gateway starts. 2 starts here with a 22nd. So he finishes better at Gateway than he does at New Hampshire. Practice speeds, he never got much better than average. So he's going to need to get a little help, and hopefully the track comes to him by the time the race starts tomorrow, and he can work his way to the front. He's done that almost every race for the last 5 weeks. So I'm going to continue to bet on that trend line that he will come through the field. But starting 29th, get to the average finish of 13th. That's all I ask. And it puts it there. Because all he's got to do at 6,200 is get to 45 points. And that's a 47.8 with 4 fast laps. John Hunter absolutely will be in my core C group. Oh, sorry, Pope, if you were betting on the Florida to come back, because Miami just scored again. With 2 minutes left, they're up 25-7. They are definitely covering the spread. Being a Hokie fan, I do not want to say go Canes. But Daniel Suarez, $6,000, starting in 32nd. I think we've gotten to the point of the lineups that I don't really like much of anything back here. Daniel Suarez starting in 32nd. I mean, he does have a 16th place average finish at New Hampshire. Okay. That's pretty good. 20.8 for the 5 racers we're comparing to. He was 10th and 13th in practice. He was in the first practice. So his practice speeds were just about average. And he's starting 32nd. There's some room to run for Daniel. But it's just so tough for anybody in the 30s to make it into the optimal lineup. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I'll run some of it. It'll be in my sub-core group of guys. So it'll be probably less than 10% or right at 10% ownership for Daniel Suarez. And that's probably about the most I'll have of it. So I'm not saying it's a complete fade. I don't really like it as a cash play. Like I like John Hunter in the cash play. I like Eric Jones in the cash play. I like Austin Dillon, not as much, but I'll put him in the cash play. I'll put him in my tournament plays. The Daniel Suarez, I mean, Daniel has been one of the one positive, if you're looking for a sneaky potential pick, is you could run the Daniel Suarez play could be pretty sneaky because he has been either the lowest owned or within the bottom 3 in ownership over the last 3 or 4 races. So his ownership has just fallen off a cliff. So if you're looking to be sneaky, Daniel Suarez probably will continue to be sneaky because everybody's just written him off, including me, which probably would be an indication that I probably should have more ownership than I do of him. But he hasn't. Nothing has turned out to be true so far for Daniel Suarez. There's a reason why everybody has faded off of him. So maybe not. Oh, the country music artist Brett James passed away. That's sad. Michael McDowell starting 11th. Oh, Michael, what did you do? You outkicked your coverage, Michael. His practice speeds were actually pretty good, though. The Spire guys have been doing fairly well. They just can't. All of them can't end up finishing well. Carson seems to still be the best. Michael McDowell is probably the second, and poor Justin Haley. I hope he is able to hold on to his seat. I'd rather have Justin Haley in that seat than Daniel Suarez, but I understand. It's all about the Benjamins. What makes the money? Where are you finishing? $5,900 starting in 11th. Practice speeds were okay. Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of get what you get with Michael. I think it's probably start in 11th and finish in the best 11th, maybe 13th, 14th. And I'm not sure 11 to 11 plays. In fact, I know it doesn't. Done this long enough. It's 33.35 points. It doesn't even put him in the top 15. I'm going to be a fade off of Michael McDowell, and it's just too difficult. Michael's going to have to he'd have to get up into like 5th place for it to actually end up being in the realm. So I'll be a fade off of Michael McDowell. Noah Gragson. This is the only other driver in the top, or that's starting 30th or worse that I might have some ownership in. He was 17th and 12th in practice. He was in the first group. He practiced pretty well, but then went out qualified 33rd. I get it. But once again, it's Noah Gragson. He just has burned. He just doesn't ever do much this year, which is a shame because I like Noah Gragson too. Now, Noah's pretty safe in his ride because he's got the backing of Bass Pro Shops, and the owner of Bass Pro just absolutely adores Noah Gragson. So I think Noah Gragson will stay in the Cup Series and in this 4-car for as long as he wants it, because the two of them are like two pigs in a blanket. 5,700 starting in 33rd. I mean, there's sure have some ownership in Noah. There's almost no room to go but up at this point, and it's not going to take a whole lot to get there. It's very much like Daniel Suarez. I mean, you get to what, 18th? 17th. Go get a 17th place finish, 5 fast laps, and you're real close to being in the potential optimal. So I'll take the risk on that. SVG, what are you doing? You qualified 10th. You don't belong up there. He's going to be lucky to even no, I don't have any interest. He practiced fine, but his pit crew is about awful. He is able to save the pit crew on road courses because he's so damn good. But it really shows that they're not very good when it comes to ovals because you've got to be much better. Because Shane's just not that good to take care of that. So starting in 10th, I don't even put this on the calculator. He's going to have negative place differential. He's not going to finish in the top 10. You know, the best thing for Shane to do is just follow the back and just make sure you finish all of the laps and get as much oval experience as you can. You qualified too well. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. starting in 34th. Okay, so I take it back. You can have some ownership in Ricky. He'll be in my sub-core grouping. I don't really love it, but his stats here are really good. 16 total starts, and he's got a 16.4 average finish. That's pretty consistent. 3 top 10s and 10 top 20s, and he's starting 34th. And his practice speeds were 14th and 14th, single lap and 10 lap consecutive average. I mean, it's nothing to write home about, but he's starting in 34th. I mean, he's got one more spot of run to room than Noah. So I take it back. You could put Ricky, Noah, and Daniel as sub-core potential groups. Zane Smith, I think Zane may have outkicked his coverage here. I don't know if we get much better than 20th. I know he's been running pretty darn well lately, but I think maybe he gets to 10th. He was 33rd in single lap, 26th in 10 lap. And I don't know what happened to his teammate, Todd Gillen, but he was just about god-awful. They never discussed it. At least I never heard it in practice. But, I mean, starting in 20th, maybe he gets to 14th. That's what his current trend line is at. But honestly, I don't. Maybe. But even that barely gets you into the top 15. It definitely doesn't put you close to the optimal lineup range. So I just probably won't have much of it. I don't know what to tell you to do about Todd Gillen. Something was seriously amiss on this car in practice. Cody Ware was faster in single lap. Cody Ware almost was faster in 10 lap. They never even really got close to the average line. Even Ryan Blaney's slowest lap was almost better than their fastest lap. It just, something's not good with this car. I don't know what it is. There's no indications. Maybe they'll fix something, and so kind of keep an ear out on Twix, for any repairs that they made. Because even if they say he had to go to the rear, he's already there. So overhaul the whole damn car at this point. And if they do find that they had a broken sway bar, or they had a bad steering box, or they had something that was broken that they were able to fix, that would give me an indication that, okay, then Todd's in play again. But if there's no indications that there was anything broken, then this car is just haunted, and it's going to be an ugly day for Todd. So, it doesn't really even have that great of a finish here. It's 26.6. On like-minded tracks, it's 21.2. So even if he is able to get up to 25th, it's 28 points. 21st would be 36 points, which still doesn't come close to the optimal. So he's going to have to finish better than 20th, and I'm not sure that happens. So we'll fade off of that. Justin Haley, starting in 21st. Once again, he practiced really well. He was 11th in single lap, 3rd in 10 lap consecutive average. He was pretty quick. Starting in 21st, though, his average finish is at 21.9 for the 5 races we're comparing to. At New Hampshire, it's 25.7. He's kind of in Zane Smith world where I don't see him getting much better than where he's starting. So I don't have to put him on the calculator. It's either flat place differential or negative place differential. Cole Custer, like I said earlier, did get his first win here in the Truck Series. And since then, it's been okay. He's got a 16.3 average finish for all 4 Cup starts here. 1 top 10, 2 top 20, starting in 31st. If you really get down here and you need to run a $5,000 or less person, sure, you can run 1 or 2 lineups with them. I'm going to try my best not to get to where I'm needing to take any of these drivers $5,000 or less. Wyatt, what's up, buddy? Just got back from the Red Sox game in Tampa. It was sick, and the Sox won. I'm a Yankee fan, so I didn't want either team to win. At least you were playing at Steinbrenner, or at least you went to a Steinbrenner Field game. At least you went to the Yankees Park. I'll give you that. I don't know. What's up, Wyatt? Glad you joined in. Now we're talking about baseball. We've talked about college football. We've talked about F1. We even threw a little bit of politics, which I tried not to do in here. Yeah, we've talked about it all tonight. Now I got you. Now you got to unsub me. What? My wife's a Red Sox fan. I married her. You can still be a sub here. Come on. I do like the Red Sox more than I like the Orioles. I'm probably going to lose another sub from somebody else because of that comment. Probably just because I'm a Yankee fan. Yeah, I mean, I get the weirdest fan base. I'm a Kyle Larson fan. I'm a Washington NFL team fan. Still a Redskin fan. A Yankee fan. And a Virginia Tech Hokie fan. I'm back. She's down. Good job, Pope. Way to go, Dad. Glad you were successful. We're down in the $5,000 range, and we're now talking about baseball because Wyatt showed up and he went to the baseball game in Tampa and saw his Red Sox win. I'm kidding. We also talked about farming in Kansas, and yeah, we've been all over the board tonight. I'm sure at this point I've had 10 people unsubscribe. They're like, this guy's loony. And I really haven't had any much to drink. I've had one, and I didn't double it up. I should have. Riley Herbst, $4,800 starting in 25th. He starting too far up. He's never raced a Cup Series race here. I mean, he's typically good on, at least in the Xfinity Series, on these flat style tracks, but he just hasn't been good. We love you, man. No matter what. Yeah, I hear you. No, insane. But that's the fun part about sports. We can pick on each other a little bit as long as everybody knows it's in good fun. Riley Herbst, yeah, starting 25th, too far up. I just don't have any interest. It's just a yeah. I don't even know what to say about Riley Herbst. It's such a disappointment this year, and I'm not really a big Riley fan, but I don't mind him. I just kind of disappointing. Ty Dillon starting in 30th. He was 31st in single lap, 33rd in 10 lap. An average finish 22. It's just, I mean, even it doesn't play. You know, I mean, like I said, the furthest down I'm going to go is maybe a Cole Custer, and I don't really want to get to that. I might go to a Ty Dillon at 5,200 if we find out they had something broken in the car. Cody Ware starting in 35th. His practice speeds were god awful. I mean, he was right there next to Todd Gillen. Next week, the big game, Alabama, Georgia. Georgia's going to stomp Alabama. It's not even going to be close, especially if it's at Georgia. Yeah, that's not even going to be close. Georgia wins by 9. So yeah, I mean, if Florida State beat up on Alabama that way, Georgia definitely will beat up on them. Florida State's really good this year. What a turnaround of a year. Cody Ware starting 35th. I don't have any interest. Just none. 0. Zip. Zilch. All right, let's go through. Let's break it down. We are at 2 hours and 13 minutes. I've hit the 2 hour mark. We're allowed to now. And definitely like the Bell play. Hamlin, I'm fine with. It's a good cash play. Unsubscribe after that nonsense. Oh no. Are you an Alabama fan? Oh no. Roll Tide. Yeah, Roll Tide, whatever. I mean, you gotta remember, I'm a Virginia Tech Hokie fan. You almost stole my coach. Almost. Way back when. You're probably too young to remember when that happened. Beamer almost got that job over Nick Saban. Lucky for you guys, you got Saban. We got stuck with Beamer, which it wasn't bad. I loved Beamer. I'm decent friends with Beamer. I owned a restaurant in Blacksburg, and he came in quite often. Bell, absolutely, I like a lot. Larson, I like a lot. Briscoe, I like a lot. I definitely will pair up those guys with a Blaney or a Logano. As a long shot starting up front, I like the Carson Hocevar play. Maybe as a one-off, I'll put a Josh Berry, or two-off, I'll put Josh Berry instead of a Ryan Blaney or Joey Logano paired up with a Bell, Larson, Briscoe type of lineup. I think Bubba Wallace plays you just have to be careful with your lineup builds when you're putting in the Bell, Larson, Briscoe, Bubba Wallace, Brad K type lineups. They all play, and they can play decently well. You just need to make sure that you've got probably with them one or two, probably 2 place differential guys. Like, I'm not sure if you can end up playing. Let me see real quick. See if this would end up working. Let's see. Can you play a Bell, Larson, Barry? What else did I say? Briscoe? Oh, I think it's too much. In fact, I know it's going to be too much. I mean, at least 5,200 per. You get down here, and you absolutely went dumpster diving, took a Cole Custer. That leaves you enough money for a Ricky Stenhouse. So you could run a Bell, Larson, Barry, Briscoe, Custer, Stenhouse. The problem is there are 2 drivers in there I don't really like, Barry and Custer. So, yeah, it's just tough to build with 3 guys over $10,000. Just really is. So, and you're asking for Barry to be a dominator at that point without Logano or Blaney doing it. So, you texted your pops and told him, I'm like this, who's your team? He said, they're all right. Final score 63-10 over Illinois. They did that. I actually took Illinois. I thought they were going to be able to hold, but good God, Indiana. 63-10? Hold on. Illinois was ranked higher than Indiana, weren't they? I don't even know. Either way, we're getting derailed again. We're at the end of this thing. All right. Next week, we go to Kansas. That's what brought up Kansas the last time. That is a Sunday afternoon race. So we will do this again on a Saturday night. We will talk about racing and football and try to leave politics out of it. How's that? Gonna scrub back to watch the beginning. Rather, good luck tomorrow. Yep, good luck. If you have any questions, thoughts, or concerns, make sure you hit me up in the chat. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. I appreciate everyone. We've got, after this week, 6 more weeks together. And then we'll get a little bit of a break. We get to go do all the fun festivities and Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's and all that fun stuff. And then we get back to racing in February. It's awesome. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We will see everyone next week. Good luck. Bye.
Gentlemen, start your engines. 40 cars coming to life.
Can you still take the field? Yep. Love it. Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W, so gotta be around the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkered. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby! Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the best car here, bud. Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job. Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend. What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.